Hi, my name is Rowan Patical, and in this video we will be looking at how you can use Symlabs Virtual Directory Server to integrate relational databases into a directory-based solution so that the tables in your database appear as nodes within a virtual directory. Frequently within an enterprise you will find identity data stored in directories as well as relational databases. By using the LDAP RDBMS adapter that is included with Symlabs Virtual Directory Server, you are able to present heterogeneous data sources within a single unified virtual directory, allowing your applications to integrate with all of the data repositories within your organization. Before we get to grips with relational databases, I'd like to take a few minutes to show you how we can expand on our existing configuration to quickly accommodate access to additional data stored within a separate branch on one of our backend data repositories. Let's return to our example project where we are making data accessible to an intranet application that is being developed for the MyComp organization. In this example, consider that the accounting department has additional employee data stored within its own LDAP directory server. This data is used by an internal accounting application but contains information relevant to each employee within the organization. In order to make this data accessible to the intranet application, we need only make a minor amendment to the virtual tree configuration for our virtual directory server instance. In this configuration, you can see that all we have done is add a new virtual mount point within the tree. The virtual mount point will be accessible using the DN OU equals employees, DC equals my company, DC equals com. The mount point is configured to map entries within this branch onto the entries stored in the branch on the OpenDS directory used by the accounting department. Let's run the configuration and see what this additional mount point will do. Click on the Run button and open the LDAP browser. Now we can connect to the virtual directory server instance, and once connected we can expand the tree to see that there is now an organizational unit for employees. If we expand this, we can see that the employee data stored in the accounting directory is now available for access by the intranet application. So, if we open the intranet application and log in as JBond, you can now see that the intranet application has access to additional information about each user. This is because the application is capable of querying the employees branch in our virtual tree to present additional information about the users stored within the all users branch that we have created to handle authentication. But identity information can be even more distributed within an organization. Let's assume that the accounting department uses a payroll application that stores its data within a MySQL database. We can view the database in phpMyAdmin. The database contains two tables that we are interested in. The employee data table, which contains bank account details for each employee, and the leave days table, which contains information about the numbers of days of leave that each employee has taken. Consider that there is a requirement that the MyComp intranet application has access to payroll data within the accounting database. We can use the LDAP to RDBMS adapter that is built into Symlabs Virtual Directory Server to integrate the tables within the backend MySQL database so that they appear as nodes within the virtual tree. Let's take a closer look at the configuration. You may already have noticed, but in the output section of the configuration it is possible to add a relational database as a server group. By clicking on the New Database Connection button, I can open a friendly wizard that will guide me through the configuration options required to set up a connection with a specific database type. You will notice that among the different supported database drivers, we can also support ODBC and are able to use this to enable access to any database that can provide an ODBC driver. In this configuration, we have already configured a connection for the backend database, so we will close this wizard and look at the configuration options that have already been created. Clicking on the external MySQL server group, we can see that the options here are a little different to those offered for a usual server group configuration panel. Firstly, we specify a connection string that is used by the database driver to initiate a connection to the backend database, and of course we provide a database username and password so that the connection can be authenticated. But the real magic for the LDAP RDBMS adapter lies under the LDAP Info tab. The first field of any interest is the destination tree, which points to a non-existent branch on our virtual tree, OU equals external DB, DC equals my company, DC equals com. This will be the point on the virtual tree where we will store branches for each table that we wish to access from the database. There are some options here that describe how a particular situation should be handled with regard to search and bind requests, but the table beneath this is more interesting. Here we provide a table name within the database and describe how it maps onto the virtual tree, specifying the table key as the naming attribute for each data entry. The password attribute field, which we have not used here, allows you to facilitate bind requests against entries within a database table should you wish to do so. In this configuration, we have also chosen to demonstrate some additional processing functionality. If we expand the processing section, you can see that we have created an extra processing stage called Join Employee Info. In this stage, we are going to use the Join Entries plugin to further consolidate user identity information so that it appears as if all of the information about any user is actually stored in the entries contained by the branch OU equals employees, DC equals my company, DC equals com. This plugin expects us to define a foreign data entry group, and we will use the virtual branch that is presented by the database adapter for this purpose. We will also need to define a join attribute from the database that can be used to match up with an attribute within the employees branch. In this case, the attribute is the EID. If we go back to the main configuration panel for the Join Entries plugin, you can see that the EID will be matched against the myComp employee ID attribute in the employee branch. We now have a fairly complex configuration. Firstly, the configuration is going to present a virtual tree that will allow us to access data stored within our backend data repositories in a consolidated way. Secondly, we have made use of the LDAP to RDBMS adapter that comes with Symlabs Virtual Directory Server in order to attach a relational database as a backend data repository. This will allow us to access database tables as if they were branches within an LDAP repository. Finally, we have made use of the Join Entries plugin to import data from the database entries into matching entries within the virtual employees branch that we created for data held in the accounting directory server. Let's start the configuration instance and see all of this functionality in action. We can connect to the virtual tree using the built-in browser. With our virtual tree open in front of us, we can see the new OU equals employees branch that we created at the beginning of this demonstration. If we expand this branch, we can see all of the entries that are actually stored within the backend accounting LDAP repository on the OpenDS server. More importantly, if we click on any of these entries, we will see that as long as there is a matching entry in the accounting payroll database, the entry contains attributes such as sick leave and days taken. This data is actually stored in the backend relational database and is being merged with the data for the entry in the LDAP directory in real time. To any LDAP application, the data for each entry can be used as if it were stored in one branch on a single LDAP server. In actuality, this data can be obtained from multiple backend resources, including relational databases. As you can see, the LDAP to RDBMS adapter that comes with Symlabs Virtual Directory Server can prove to be an invaluable integration tool, while the Join Entries plugin can help to ensure that all of the identity information appears as if it is stored in one place, providing the ultimate consolidation solution. While very few applications cater to handling data stored across multiple backends, almost none are capable of dealing with data stored in different repository types. In the next demo, we will be exploring how the tools bundled with Virtual Directory Server can allow applications, such as the myComp intranet application, to integrate with multiple backend data repositories, regardless of whether they are LDAP directory servers or relational databases. By using plugins like the Join Entries plugin, applications do not need to be configured or coded to extract data from a variety of sources to present a comprehensive view for a particular entry. Join us in the next video demonstration to see how we can add additional tables from a database into our configuration and to see how we are able to use the Join Entries plugin to further consolidate the data presented for an employee's identity record.